I wanted to see how smaller businesses were doing 7 weeks into this crisis. So I caught up with Rachel Lutz. You met her on One Detroit about a year ago when we visited her at the Peacock Room at the Fisher Building. She owns 4 retail shops in the city, and she talks about the loan process and figuring a path forward.
It was just heartbreaking to finally make the decision of having to lay off my entire staff, full-time of 12 women, but additional part-time and seasonal help. It really was devastating on a personal level. And as a practical matter too, I'm now the only sole employee of running 4 stores. And in the process, I've had to be, fulfilling, a few orders coming in. I've had to apply for all these grants and loans. And in the meantime, I don't just miss my staff operationally, like they're my family. To send the layoff letter, I literally stayed up until 5 o'clock one morning because I just couldn't hit send. And I'd promised them I would send it that night. And I thought, well, maybe if I technically do this before dawn, it still counts. And finally, before I just had no time left, that's when I just sent the layoff letter. It was awful. But I did it with the intention of bringing everyone back as soon as we're able to reopen. Didn't know what the future looked like, but I knew what that moment looked like, and it was pretty bleak.
So if you stop then for a minute and say, all right, now how am I going to pause and now apply, you said, for all of these different grants or loans, or see what you can do to connect the dots. Can you explain that process for people who don't own a small business and who don't maybe really truly understand what you guys are going through?
They're lucky not to even be familiar with it because it is a mountain of paperwork. I think a lot that we're hearing is, well, you'll be fine. You're getting the small business bailout. And there really isn't one. There are several loan programs that you can apply for and some grants. But, the PPP, for example, we watched 45% of that funding go to 4% of the recipients. How demoralizing is that as a small business to finally get thrown a life preserver and then have it yanked away and given to somebody on a yacht? That's what it felt like. And the second round of funding is also, just as it feels just as elusive. I am hopeful in the second round that we might qualify, but even that is protection for our payroll and rent. It's a bailout for our landlords in a way. It doesn't take into account the $100,000 of inventory that I have bought for theater season, wedding season, derby season, prom season, that just evaporated into thin air. So the money that even if we do get it, we're restricted on what we can spend it on, or it becomes a loan instead of a forgivable loan. But the questionnaires that we have to answer, how many employees do you have? Well, do you mean full-time, part-time, seasonal? How many employees do you expect to bring back? I have no idea how I'm supposed to answer that question as a retail shop owner that's non-essential. So all these questions, it's almost like we're expected to have a crystal ball ourselves, and we don't. So these applications are just, thank God I have a bookkeeper and an accountant and a manager that's helping me through this, because the small businesses, especially the ones who are more analog, they're not as web friendly. I think that those are really a lot of the businesses that are especially going to get left out of this.
Talk to me a little bit about what other small business owners are doing who maybe don't have the bookkeeper, who maybe don't have even other resources. What is everyone telling each other in the area right now?
So one of the amazing privileges of owning a business in the city of Detroit is the spirit of collaboration. I founded a private Facebook group just to quickly do it as a crisis communications group called City of Detroit Business Owners COVID-19 Rapids Alert Page. And that's an internal group where we can vent, we can collaborate, we can let each other be aware of all these programs and keep track of all these grants and loans and other resources that are available to help each other. So if anything, we're just trying to reach out to those who might not have the resources and share what we have. Thankfully, we have a short-term, medium-term, and a long-term plan. We're doing virtual appointments. We're still very service-heavy, as we always have been. We're not going to be out balling your business in a fitting room anytime soon. And by the time we are, we'll have a plan in place to deal with that. And the medium and long-term plans, aside from selling through social media and online, is we do want to be a brick and mortar again in the neighborhoods that we serve. That is our number one passion and the passion of most retail stores in Michigan. So our medium and long-term plan are really going to depend on what the governor advises and frankly what the health community advises. I'm not going to be taking my directions from any politician at a city, state, federal level. I'm going to listen to the medical experts that are out there telling us how to manage this crisis.